divinely chosen leader to represent the messenger of Allah, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to lead the Muslim Ummah after him. We are joined today, our discussion tonight, inshallah, will be related to the 8th Holy Imam and Tibbi Imam Raza alayhi salam, which means his contribution to the medical field and how he contributed to and led the Muslim Ummah in the medical field. We will also be joined by our guest, who is a doctor in the NHS, and we will discuss the challenges faced by Muslims in the medical field. So once a Muslim is hospitalized, what are the challenges that they face once they are in hospital, from language barriers to ritual cleanliness and wudu, and prayers in the hospital, especially if they are bedridden. And also we will carry on and discuss the decision making once the patient is experiencing a terminal illness or a loss of consciousness. What about the decision making, and what are the things that we need to think about and put in place before anyone reaches that stage, and what are the challenges faced if there are no provisions made for that? We will also discuss end-of-life care and the post-mortem that we have to face here in the West, and how to deal with those issues. Joining me for tonight's discussion, we have with us our scholar, Syed Mohammad Razavi, who is the head of the Religious Advisory Board at the Shia Islamic Education Society in London. He deals with family cases and resolves them in accordance to the Islamic law. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, Syed.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And guest of the week, we have with us Dr.Sukaina Asad. She is a consultant neurologist, and she has a special interest in movement disorders. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Dr. Sukaina.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for having me on the show tonight.
Thank you for joining us. It's lovely to have you back. We had you almost a year ago, and it's nice that you could join us again for another discussion. Thank you. Congratulations to you both on the birth anniversary of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida alayhi salam, which is falls on the 11th of the month, the Islamic month of Dhul Qa'dah. Syed, we also have celebrated 10 days, which are called Ashra-e-Karamat, the 10 days of Karamat. Would you like to explain a little bit about Ashra-e-Karamat to myself and the viewers, and why is it called Ashra-e-Karamat? What's the significance of these 10 days?
Well, we had a similar discussion in the holy month of Ramadan. The days, in Ramadan, the 10 days are divided into 3 different categories. There is no specific instruction for that, and similarly for this month as well. But if you look at the narrations, there are lots of du'as, a'mal in certain period of certain months, like Ramadan is one of them, Rajab is another month, Sha'ban is another month. And since we are approaching Hajj, so Zil Qa'dah and Zil Hijjah also have similar um days where it is recommended to do certain amal. So some ulama have calculated and worked out together and joined them in 10 days and declared them as the 10 day of karamat or blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The main point is to be aware of our responsibility and duty, and these holy months or these days are a reminder for us to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His mercy and blessings with different excuses. just like five times daily prayers. Some people may ask, why do we have to pray 5 times a day?
Yes.
The simple answer is to remind us with different excuses at different times of the day. So these days during different months are also a certain reminder. Psychologically, it may be said that continuity of continuity without change becomes boring. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our creator, and He knows our weaknesses and our strengths. So, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us, and He likes us to gain more benefit and advantages of His blessings. And since He is our creator, He also knows that how quickly we get bored. So He has instructed us to do a'mal and different types of dua and narrations through His beloved Ma'sumeen and others to instruct us to do these a'mal and take advantage of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Of course, the relationship between Imam al-Rida alayhi salam and his sister, Lady Fatima al-Ma'suma alayhi salam, in the city of Qom, who is buried in the city of Qom, was a special relationship. And it has this Ashra been chosen specifically because her birth is at the start of the month of Dhul Qa'dah and his is on the 11th. So the 10 days in between have been called Ashra Karamat. And I understand Karamat means the honor. The city of Iran, also the country of Iran, is also known as the country of Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, right, Syed?
Yes, I mean this is one of the reasons I said that it's not authentic. It's not thing. I mean, Ulema and the lovers of Ahlebait wasalam have joined, like they noticed it is the birth of Bibi Masuma Salawatullah alayha, who traveled all the way to join her brother and could not reach him, and was, according to some narrations, poisoned and killed in Qum and buried in Qum. And a week later, or 10 days later, is the birth anniversary of Imam Raza alayhi salatu wasalam. So both of them are known as Kareem of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. So they named it as Ashara Karamat.
Sure. Thank you for the explanation, Syed. Dr. Sukaina, what would you like to say about the birth anniversary of our holy 8th Imam, and also about Tibbi Imam Raza and his contribution to medicine, before we enter the discussion about the challenges that Muslims face in once hospitalized in the West? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, okay. So what I was saying, that I feel really honored to have our discussion, which is very important for today's era as well. And we are doing this session, we are actually discussing this topic on auspicious the birth anniversary of our Imam, known for his school of medicine himself as well. And as you know already, that he has written Treaty of Medicine. And in this era where the conditions like mental health problems, obesity, other medical that are prevalent, we should go back to basics and just what he has advised in his tip or in his Treaty of Medicine, and we can prevent most of these conditions by just adopting those basic lifestyle modifications.
Sure. I mean, his medical instructions are very, very thorough and very clear, which the Syed will tell us about in a little while. Dr. Sukaina, there is a little bit of a time delay at your end. So if you just slow down a little bit so that the echo does not disrupt what us hearing what you have to say. Dr. Sukaina, let's start the discussion. As a medical doctor who works in the NHS and in the hospital, what are the challenges that you see Muslims face from the time that they need hospitalization and being on the ward in the hospital?
So patients, obviously, we are in UK and we have got national health system, which is a very good system as well. But there are some challenges which are faced by particularly Muslim community as well. The challenges basically are dependent on where your background is from, what patient is as well. Like for example, elderly population. Sometimes I have experienced that they have language barrier, and they feel that they can't explain their problem to physician who is looking after them, and obviously that is huge barrier in their care as well. Then comes when they are in the hospital environment, they friends feel their mental health get affected as well, and then it hinders their recovery process as well. So that is another one that is commonly faced by Muslim patients. Then come other problems in religious rituals, for example, or ritual bathing, for example, prayers. So these are other problems that we face as Muslims, especially when you are bedridden and you can't do or you can't observe these practices freely as you would do otherwise.
Yes, Syed, I'd like to bring you in here. It's something important Dr. Sukaina said about prayers and once bedridden. We see a lot of elderly when they are, or healthy individuals once we have had surgeries and patients are bedridden. They are unable to leave their bed. What is the Islamic instruction in regards to their wudu, their ritual cleanliness, and the prayer instructions, especially if they can't leave the bed and face the qibla, for example? They can't leave the bed to do normal wudu. What should they be doing? How should their family be helping them?
Yeah, very important and good question. Recently, I've been to hospital visiting some ill uh, patients and people who are going through difficult time in hospitals. And this question was asked to me. Our community needs to be educated, and we need to create connection with the NHS and other organizations. I remember at Islamic Center of England, we used to have students from all different universities and different fields, including once we had students from medical uh, institution, and they had come to ask questions how to deal with Muslim patient without hurting their feelings, without disrespecting the religious rituals, and what are the responsibilities and duties. So we used to have these classes at the Islamic Center of England and explain to them the rules and regulations. And one of the rules and regulations for the ill patient is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is kind and merciful, and He does not impose things on us which are beyond our strength and ability, especially when you're ill and you are unable to get up. So it is okay to do your prayers while you're sitting. And if you cannot even get up and you have to continuously lie in your bed, you could still do the prayers by just pointing with your hand or body action that you are trying to do. And worse to worse, even if you are unable to move anything at all, you can just move your eyelashes. Uh, you could do the prayer by closing your eye and opening your eye, meaning to say that you are doing ruku, you are doing qiyam, you are doing sujood, and even if you can't do that in your thoughts, you could make an intention that I'm doing the prayer facing the direction. If you can face, if you can't face, and the patient cannot make you face, then I mean the nurses cannot make you face the direction of Mecca to do the prayers. Then in any direction you can just lie down or intend the area that you are supposed to be facing and do the prayers. The point is that in any circumstances, it is not recommended to forget the prayer. Remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I have seen so many articles and researchers that people or the patients who pray and who have connection to higher authority or spiritual authority or spiritual connection, they get healed much quicker than people who do not have any kind of belief. I'm sure the doctor would mention more and elaborate more on this.
What about the wudu, Syed? So you've explained the different ways that prayers can be performed in case of inability to get up and stand up or face the qibla. What about wudu? Sometimes it's not, we can't access the sink, for example, to do the proper ablution. What are the rules when
The
it comes to that?
ablution with dust can be done. I mean, like that is called tayammum. If you cannot do wudu, and I mean, wudu cannot be done in that. One of the reasons wudu cannot be done, it is the water is harmful for you, or your body has become najis and you cannot be cleaned, and cleaning you is difficult and harmful for you. So therefore it is not possible to, although your hands and arm and face is not najis, but other parts of body which are supposed to be tahir and clean are not clean. So in that case you can do tayammum and do your prayer.
And at times you mentioned najasa, which is something very important also to mention. We obviously know as Muslims that we only become pak and we become clean with water. But a lot of the times, if a patient is bedridden and the nurses have to help them clean, of course, the staff in the Western world don't understand the same thing that we understand as Muslims, is that cleanliness is only fully achieved with water. In that instance, what are the rulings? And also, if there are family members around who perhaps a patient cannot leave the bed to perform wudu at the sink, but if family members are around, is there a way? Because I've heard of spray bottles and things like that. If you could explain, if you shed more light on both of these. We have you as a scholar, and this is your speciality of fiqh, and there are so many questions that are born out of just the first area of discussion. Okay, Syed, over to you.
Yeah, I mean there are many ways. I mean you could seek help. First of all, the first advice is the patient should do everything himself or herself. If they cannot do, they can ask for help, like somebody can pour water for them and bring a bowl and help them to do wudu themselves. And worst to worst, if they cannot do it, somebody can help them. Uh, and if nothing is possible, then the tayammum takes over. And tayammum also should be done by the patient himself or herself. And then if they cannot do it, then somebody can help them.
Now, when many people feel that I am najis, I haven't been washed with water, so what's the point of praying? What do you say about that?
Well, that is the point. Point is to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all circumstances. If you look at the Maraja Taqlid who became ill, and even in their deathbed, they did not leave the prayer. Look at Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam. He was injured and hurt by the arrows, but at the time of Zohar prayer, he gave preference to the prayer, although the body was injured.
that means that prayers are not to be taken by our own liking. Even if we are najis and the time has set about, we've tried everything, we still have to perform them. That's what you are saying, in whichever way possible. Okay, so Dr. Sukaina, we come back to you. That was the first area that you have mentioned. Of course, there is also the issue of gender physicians. If you could elaborate a little bit more on the next challenges that are faced by Muslims.
So another challenge that is also faced by Muslims, particularly female Muslim, that they would like to have same gender physician, and this is our priority as per Muslims as well. And this is one of the things that we have experienced ourselves as well, that patients do like to have doctors or medical staff, nursing staff of same genders. Most of the time, in my practice, it has been facilitated for them, and we try and make sure that patients' preferences are always respected where possible. Sometimes it is not possible as well, and where we just explain patients that circumstances it is not possible. But most of the times, NHS staff is also accommodating as well. The only issue that I would suggest is here to raise awareness that as per my experience in NHS, working in NHS in different hospitals throughout UK, I have observed that if you have education of your condition yourself, if you clearly explain your needs, your preferences to the staff, they try their best to facilitate your wishes as well. So you need to express your wishes, you need to explain and you need to explain the rationale behind your wishes as well. And they usually, most of the time, they accommodate it as well.
Right. So, Syed, what do you have to say about this? There are many treatments where possibly, I mean, I have been to hospital on many occasions, and when I requested a female nurse, I was told that there are none on duty at the moment, especially in the scanning sections. And a lot of the times, they are aware, and they do take care of this, that there are females present. But say there is for that particular condition, there is no consultant present at that time who is of the same gender. What is the religious ruling regarding this? Should people not get treatment at that time?
We should make effort. We should try to request, and worse to worse, if it is not possible, the treatment gets priority. So you can see the opposite gender physician, if especially if it is an urgent type of treatment and it is necessary, and urgency could include late appointments. For example, if you miss your appointment, your next appointment would be a year later. By then you might even have you might even be in a worse condition. So you could consider those things as well, that delaying your treatment because of not having the right gender physician or nurse would harm you, then therefore it becomes allowed, permissible.
Of course, a lot of
And
the time there is another thing.
nowadays all the doctors and nurses are required to wear gloves, so there is no physical direct touch.
What about operating theaters when you are put under anesthetic, and obviously there is a team working there in the operating room? What is the religious ruling then? Because at that time there will be the issue of looking also at the patient.
Yeah, here again emergency takes over, and whatever is possible should be done. Otherwise, the emergency rule takes over.
Right. Okay. Thank you for explaining this. Dr. Sukaina, over to you. What are the other set of challenges that you see Muslims face and perhaps need clarification upon?
So we have touched upon the main or most important ones already. First thing about the one and most important thing that I would like to highlight here first is, as Syed mentioned earlier, educating ourselves first is the most important thing that we need to do. there are few rights that we need to understand about ourselves as well. Every patient, regardless of their religious, cultural background, they have few rights. Access to best or services, this is their right as well. This is the right to have safe procedures, safe diagnostic procedures, as well as high quality care. This is their right to have their wishes expressed with respect as well, and they should be communication about their condition. And obviously, here comes the need for language. Obviously, if there is a language barrier, then there is the need of interpreter or family member, whoever is around the condition. And then here is one thing that is very important and very good here in England or in Western countries, that patients are taken the other priority, or they are taken part as part of their decision making in their own decision in their own case. So they are involved in decision making. They're not left and people are making decisions for take obviously their own decision as well, and everything is explained to them and then they make decision for themselves. So this is for first and foremost thing that needs to be understood by patients, that these are your basic rights. Once you understand them and once you have more education about your condition, then you can obviously go into other challenges and what are the other issues. So like when we obviously proceed, there are some issues. For example, we have and we rely on our family as well. When we are in hospital, when patients are in hospital, if they are unable to make decisions, their families, next of kin are involved in the care as well. Sometimes what happens when they lack capacity, or when the cognition is not as good because of the condition itself or some other problems, when they can't make decision for themselves, either family members are involved and they obviously this decision are made according to their wish. Sometimes the challenge comes when there is difference of opinion between the family and the medical team. So that is one of the issues that are faced some of the patients. And in those settings, then what we call as IMCA, Independent Medical Capacity Advocate, is asked to come and take decision for patient. So that is also challenging as well.
When would you call somebody else to come and take the decision for the patient when they are not conscious? I take it. Is that what you mean?
So when they're not conscious, or when they are conscious but unable to make their own decision, when they lack capacity, for example, so they can't make decision for themselves. But most of the times, medical team or healthcare professionals make decisions along with family to try and make the best decision for patient. But sometimes when different the IMCA are involved, that is another challenge.
I remember when talking to you earlier, you mentioned a very interesting case. I don't know if you can very briefly outline that for the viewers, just so that they understand under what circumstances this kind of situation can suddenly be arise, and if provisions are not made for it or a plan is not put in place, how can that be a very big hindrance?
Right. So, for example, when we obviously from the IMCA is one of the point that medical staff or team take as in decision making for the patient. Another thing that we should try and find ourselves is advance directive or decision to be taken in advance when everybody is in the best cognition, in best, so that if they go into if they develop a condition in which they are not able to make decision for themselves, they have put somebody, if they have made somebody as a advocate to make decision for them at that time, and what we call as power of attorney. So power of medicine or medical or power for kind of situation as well. So we had, like for example, this is one of the obviously situation scenarios. We have plenty of situations like that as well. Like for example, a person comes young with young family as well, and has come in with some memory problems, loss of executive functions, language problem as well, losing their language, losing their social awareness as well, and slowly and gradually they developed one of the condition in which their memory is affected, and they are diagnosed with dementia, for example, and now they have lost their capacity. They can't make decision for themselves. Now they are in hospital, and after having the diagnosis, appropriate treatments, whatever is available, now the next step is in the medical admission is to make discharge planning, and we have separate discharge planning teams as well. But if a person who lacks capacity, who doesn't have capacity, then issues can arise. Like, for example, if a person who was previously independent, now they are dependent on care 24/7, they require help. And if they have, for the case that we had, but the one had young children, and they were not able to look after mother who was unwell now, and she was young mother as well. So the team was feeling that it was not safe for patient to go back to home, and they made decision that patient should go to care home. Obviously,
And she was a young mother. This
young
is not
mother.
an elderly person.
Yeah, so young person. And now decision is being made that person should go in a care home setting where they can be looked after 24/7, which is what they need now. Family, understandably upset, and they wanted to take patient home, and they felt that it would be best in patient's best interest that if she goes home and be looked after by family. Obviously, there was few challenges, barriers, but after, alhamdulillah, after having discussions with family, appropriate decision was made, and with the care settings, she was sent home with the setting that husband would look after her, and she would not be left alone with children. So if the risk assessments are done, and obviously the decision making needs to be made as well appropriately, but these are some of the challenges that can obviously occur in our community as well. So these needs to be looked at, and especially power of attorney and advanced care planning. If there are any conditions that is diagnosed with and in which they are feeling that obviously in a time they would lack capacity, for example, then these decisions should be at least discussed between themselves.
Sure. Syed, what do you have to say about the importance of the advanced directive form that Dr. Sukaina talked about, and having a power of attorney in place, even for healthy young individuals? Needless to say, elderly individuals definitely have to, for decisions to stay within their families' reach and within their, as a family right, rather than the decision making regarding a patient once hospitalized being taken by carers or by doctors. And the family, I understand, Dr. Sukaina, in the absence of these forms, have no rights to make a decision about a patient once they are in hospital and receiving treatment.
So in those settings, we have best interest. Independent person comes along with the medical and nursing and discharge team as well, and they make decisions for patient if there are no such settings available.
Syed, what do you have to say about this?
Yes, I mean, from Islamic point of view, also, when you are unable to make decisions about yourself, there have to be others who make the decision. And before this decision is passed to someone else, or a stranger or outsider, usually the relatives or close relatives are looked upon and trusted. And um, for example, I myself, as a minister of religion, my name has been given by so many different Muslims living in the West as the person who can make decision about them, and they have given me the power of attorney, that in the worst conditions, I should be consulted, and I would be the person who would make the decision about the future of the treatment of the patient if they are unable to make their own mind up and decision in their cases. So it is good. Islam also recommends that if you fear that you are not going to be able to make decisions about yourself, and especially your treatment and your well-being, you should have a guardian or someone who would take care of the affairs of you, not only in medical field, in financial matters. Especially nowadays, people are living longer and have longer lives, but the quality of longer life is not there. More and more of these elderly people are becoming dependent on the younger members of the family or younger members of the society. So, although they are living longer and have a long life, but they are unable to even handle uh, issues like tax and rent and bills and things like that. So, even in those matters, they need someone to have the power of attorney on their behalf to deal with such matters. Unfortunately, abuses take place if these things are not taken care. So, Islam advises that if you cannot do the responsibility that is on your shoulders, then you should choose the right, trustworthy person around you to do and deal with these matters. In some cases, some family members could be more harmful than strangers. So there are cases. I know that the person has family members, but he has trusted me or someone who is not related and given the power of attorney and in such matters to me or someone else.
So would the better solution be to have more than one person as an executive to deal with one's issues rather than relying on one person, as you say, in order to prevent abuse? You can't help people who are greedy and nobody knows what the intentions of others.
Yeah, I mean, it should be according to the capability of the person who could help me. Maybe I cannot be a good help for someone in the medical field. So, if they know someone who is expert in medical field and they need assistance in that field, so it should be a person who is patient, who is expert, who is aware of the goods and bads of the medicines and the well-being of the person. Then I may not be the suitable person to have that position for that person.
Sayed, a lot of us actually know what we need to do, especially after watching a program like this and with Dr. Sukaina outlining that suddenly a person can be hit by a situation that's unplanned and they find themselves needing someone to make decisions for them. Yet many of us delay these things, delay writing a will, delay having a power of attorney in place. Everyone thinks I am young, life is just moving so fast, we are so busy, and that is one thing that is heavily neglected by majority of us. um, what do you have to say about this, and the importance of not delaying these matters and having these things in place? You as
And
the
that
minister of
is
religion must see a lot of issues concerning these matters.
especially for Muslims living in the West. It is extremely important to have these things sorted out before you get into a situation that you cannot make decision about yourself. I have seen cases of Muslim being cremated because the person did not bother to write a will or say anything, and the only people who were around him were non-Muslims. So for them, it was more ecological to burn the body, so they were cremating. So in
Wow.
luckily, someone intervened and asked my opinion, and I gave a letter confirming that this person was Muslim, and according to Muslim belief, cremation is not permissible. So that my letter saved the cremation from the body of the person from being cremated.
I mean, aside from medical issues, I can also think of financial issues. If one does not have a will in place, their property, their house, whatever they're leaving behind the children are not going to get a share of that. Am I right, Syed?
Yes, I mean, if you don't, because apparently, according to British law, if the parents who are wealthy they die, around 60% of whatever they have left behind would be taken by the government and taxes and other things. But there is a way around, and I have seen many wealthy parents do this. They establish a trust and they appoint a lawyer and they instruct the lawyer to hand over the required amount of money whenever the inheritors need it and come forward. So the person who's in charge of the trust will judge the situation, and instead of wasting the money, he will hand over the money according to their need.
But that again is a will left. If there was no will, then automatically properties actually go to the
Yeah,
government, right? They do not
especially in non-Muslim
automatically.
government.
Yes, because it's not a Muslim country. There is another issue before I come back to you, Dr. Sukaina. I apologize, you're having to wait for so long. The issue of resuscitation, Syed. What is the Islamic ruling in regards to resuscitation? Sometimes patients are in a terminal illness. And for example, they are so ill that if they are resuscitated, they will have no quality of life. Can they opt to and choose not to be resuscitated in that instance? Is that an option available?
The fiqhi rule says that if options are available to keep the person alive, that should be used. But if the damages are greater than the life, then it is not compulsory and necessary for the family and relatives of the patient to, like I was told in one case, that the person was so weak, if they ended up having a heart attack, resuscitation would break their ribs and would harm them more, or puncture their lungs or something. That kind of might happen. So in that case, the decision is left in the hands of the experts in the field.
But that you are already talking about an elderly person or somebody who is so advanced in their illness that the medical professionals themselves make that decision that resuscitating them is going to be not in their advantage. And so the medical professionals make that decision themselves. But say there is somebody who is not so advanced in their illness or not near the end of their life, are they able to make this choice when the medical professionals are 50-50 in this decision that, they would perhaps resuscitate them? But can the patient themselves choose that they do not want to live with the illness and choose not to be resuscitated, even if the medical staff would resuscitate them?
Well, in such cases, they are not, because the life is given priority.
Right. Okay. Short and sweet. Okay, so Dr. Sukaina, we are in the last 10 minutes of the program and we still have to discuss the care after death. So if you could outline the issues there, and then we can ask the Syed some questions from that.
So yes, a few points just before to the next topic that we obviously broke down. The legal document that we were talking about is a legal document as well. So it is not just any paper and you say on the day of admission that this is my advocate. It has to be brought original paper, or it should be brought in, and they are kept as a copy in patient's notes as well, so everybody knows. So this is the importance as well, that these are the legal documents. Then the resuscitation, as well as Syed said. So we also make decision for those patients who are terminally ill and we don't feel that they resuscitate, then we don't make those decisions and we say that the decision not to resuscitate those patients. Yes, if patient is well, then they would be resuscitated. Now coming on to the discussion of end of life or life after, or the care after death, which is very important as well, especially if person unwell, terminally unwell, we anticipated that patient would pass away during their admission, then every effort would be made to try and obviously put that person in comfort as well. Their families would be called. There would be no restriction of time, visiting time as well. So there are efforts that are made for those especially in those circumstances. Family can be stay obviously around patient as well, and if obviously sometimes most if they can, if there are availability of side rooms, patients are moved to side rooms where family can do the end of life cares according to their religion as well. So there is a freedom of those rituals as well. You can put Quran, you can try and obviously towards Qibla as well, but the problem comes when patient passes away. Then obviously with the according to the rules of wards, patient cannot stay in the ward when they pass away. They have to go to mortuary until their necessary paperwork documentation is done, and that is a time which is very crucial as well. So that something is important and obviously need discuss most hospitals, but majority where Muslims are in majority, like in Leicester, we have our committee as well, in which doctors do come out of hours and do necessary paperwork to release. It is not available everywhere. Something that obviously I would like to have Syed, if we have time, if he can shed some light as well on it, like how we can prevent and what we can do.
How we can prevent?
What measures can in those situations, those circumstances?
To prevent what? Sorry.
During that time, that person obviously stays in more, for example, when the patient, when the body is not released, for example.
Okay, sure.
I have been in such situations many times in UK and other parts of the world, like in America or other countries non-Muslim world. Uh, Quite, I personally have experienced that everything is possible if you explain and communicate with the staff. Unfortunately, in many cases, Muslims are very apologetic and shy to mention and request what should be given and provided for them. For example, I've been invited to be in the last moments of the patient, and the nurses came forward and respected me as a priest or minister of religion and asked me whatever you feel like doing, can you please tell us? We will help you to do it. For example, in one case, the patient was lying in opposite direction of Qibla. Unfortunately, in recently, I went to somebody's deathbed, and the patient was facing the head was facing the Qibla, and they said yes, the head is facing Qibla. Actually, according to Islamic teaching, when a person is dying, the the bottom of the feet of the patient should face Qibla. So if he gets up, he faces the Qibla like this. So this is the situation that should be done, and in many cases that I was involved, I requested the nurses. They moved all the equipments and everything to respect the Islamic rituals. And of course, in some cases, it is not possible. So many sophisticated gadgets and things are connected to the body, and it involves a lot of work. And in that case, Allah is kind and forgiving and merciful, and it is understood. But in majority of the cases, the NHS or in non-Muslim countries, the staff is willing to help and assist you. We should not be apologetic. We should not be shy to what we want and what we like to happen. If we request, they are there to help us.
Sure. And in regards to post-mortems, are there any concerns you have, Dr. Sukaina? We are in the last minute now.
So nowadays there is a replacement of invasive post-mortem procedure that is called as non-invasive CT scans, and CT scans with contrast that is being replaced for autopsies. So which is least invasive, non-invasive procedures that are being in and practiced as UK as well. So that is something. If we have education about it, we can then ask questions as well, as Syed said.
Sure, and that's the scan. And like the Syed said, we can communicate it and ask if the scans are available, because that is being rolled out very largely now. Thank you so much to both the guests. Thank you so much, dear viewers, for listening.